All right, let's do it.
Oh, is this we have to do a okay. Nice.
Yeah. What's the process like of creating a marketing strategy for MultiChoice?
I think number one for me has always been about one of the biggest challenges, and this is just my own assessment that I see, is that there's a rush from people who are within the marketing space or just a generic commercial customer-facing space to run to tactics. I think of it as the tactification.
You've also studied strategy at Harvard and have had different experiences across different industries. What have you learned about businesses and marketing?
These programs basically gave me the tools I needed to occasionally take a step back, zoom out, see the big picture, see how, in this context, marketing isn't just another department within the organization, but an actual growth engine.
How do you make sure creative teams think like business partners, not just content makers?
That's a really, really good one. I have seen, though, I'll say this, I've seen some improvement in content partners, agency partners, just around deliberately trying to understand the business. Before it was just, all right, we're excited, we want to win an award. Awards are great, but I don't think that's what agencies should focus on. I think that should be secondary. Primary is we need to.
So before we dive into the conversation, a quick reminder. Most of you are watching without subscribing. So if this podcast adds value to you, press that subscribe button, leave a comment, or share it with somebody who might benefit from this conversation. It helps us grow the Duwit community, and it also makes sure you don't miss the next conversation. Hi Mukuka, how are you?
Good, Mukuka, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Good to see you.
Good to be here, finally.
Yeah. How's the day going?
Day has started out hot.
Yeah, it's really hot.
It's burning. But now, good start to the day. I'm rested. It's been a busy week, but good start to the day. I think no better way to start than with this. I think it's a good way to set the tone for the day.
Yeah, exactly. No, thank you so much for coming. I've been following your work for quite a while now.
Yeah.
We connected on LinkedIn. That's where I've been seeing your work. And yeah, just your experience is pretty amazing. And I'm excited to talk about it.
Nice.
And I also saw you on the GPS podcast.
Which was that? We saw the growth podcast. Yeah.
So that was also inspiring. That's like, okay.
Nice. Thanks for watching.
When I saw you there,
Yeah.
I wanted to invite you before, like, man,
he beat you to it.
Yeah, he beat me to it. I was like, I was supposed to be the first one.
It was good. That was a really good one.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching that.
Yeah. So I really like to take it back because I believe that the person that you are today and everything that you are today is influenced by the people that you're with, that you've gone around, and the environment and all that. So how was it like growing up, and what were you interested in as a kid?
Yeah, growing up was, I don't know if I would say interesting, maybe not necessarily interesting. I think it was a pretty average Zambian childhood, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I have, my dad's a military man, so very militant, right? He was in the Air Force, he was in the Zambia Air Force. My mom worked in customer experience in aviation as well as in hospitality. So almost very polar opposites in terms of personality. My mom a little bit more relaxed and laid back. My dad very militant, discipline oriented. But what I will credit my parents for, and I think this really shaped myself and my siblings, is just around how they really encouraged a culture of curiosity within the household and just how we grew up, right? So they really threw us into all these extracurricular activities just to figure out what exactly it is that interests us, and they really pushed us in that direction. So be it things like swimming, art, music classes, golf in particular. My dad was a big fan of golf, so he would take me for golf from the time I was like, 6, maybe 7 years old. China Mahiwa's golf club and everywhere else he used to play. So that, I think, was a really, really good thing in terms of my childhood, right? That the household really valued curiosity. And I think it got me to a place also where I started to wonder how things just worked generally. Right? How does, I think most kids would do this, right? You break a toy, you break a fan, you break
what's
this.
inside
What's inside? How does it work? So that level of curiosity, I think, is something that I've grown up with, right? I may not have necessarily had the vocabulary or the language of marketing, but you always wonder, well, why is this person doing what they're doing, or why are they making this particular choice? And I think that's shaped me over the years.
So What was that? Was that though in Lusaka?
So I was born in Livingston. We stayed there for 2 years. We were in Livingston because my dad was working there.
Oh, he was stationed there.
He was stationed there. Just 2 years. Then we moved to Lusaka. So I hardly remember anything about that 2 years, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But I grew up in Lusaka my entire life. There was a period where we went back to Livingston I think it was in my 10th grade or so, somewhere there. I think 2006 up until maybe 2008. I think then we moved back to Lusaka. But really, my entire life has been in this city. This is pretty much all I know.
Lusaka
boy, yeah.
You're Bemba also.
I'm Bemba. Bemba, who can't fluently speak Bemba. It's one of the things that's a pain point for me because I have been trying to learn it.
Yeah,
right?
it's like Mukuka Mulenga.
Double Bemba. Mukuka Mulenga. Pure Bemba. So I can understand.
Yeah.
I try to speak it. My accent is off when I speak it. So maybe I'll do past tense, future tense, but
I think it's similar to me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Mambwe, but I don't know how to speak it. All I know is greeting. So
exactly. But I'm also I can speak Tonga though, right? So my mom is Lozi, but her mom was Tonga, and my mom speaks Lozi, Tonga, very multilingual, right? In terms of local languages, and she was very deliberate about speaking to us in Tonga. Lozi not so much, but Tonga I can speak fairly fluently. But,
Mukuka Mulenga
speaking Tonga. I love it. Perfect.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I think the same for me is my mom was Bemba. My father never used any Mambo or Nas. It was just like Bemba also.
Same. I think it was a thing growing up because you remember schools had that no vernacular rule.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's what really shaped. It was such a terrible rule, to be honest. It's a terrible rule. I know many people that don't speak local languages these days. I think it's a shame, but it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, of course, how are you like in class? Describe to me.
In class, not great. Not great. I'm not like I was a troublesome kid or anything. I just wasn't like good at school. I think up until, I'm not even kidding, I think only when it mattered is when I was actually decent at school. Okay, so grade 7 exam, fine. At least we'll get over the line. Right, and really grade 7 I just got over the line, made it to grade 8. Grade 9, fairly decent, got over the line. I think senior high school or secondary school, whatever, was, I think even my parents were just like, this one we don't know.
Yeah, don't know
we really don't know what's going to happen here. 12th grade exams, I was shocked by my scores, right? Because it was not looking good. The signs were not pointing in the right direction. I remember overhearing a conversation my dad had with one of his friends after we got my results, and he was like, can you believe this chap, Zaf, right? Can you believe this chap has passed? Now we need to find money for university.
It's like they didn't
there's zero faith in me. Yeah. So no, not necessarily problematic as a pupil or a student, whatever, but just didn't take my education as seriously, I suppose, as I should have at the time. But like I said, when it mattered most,
that's when you
it paid off. Yeah.
So your parents, did they tell you maybe to go in the similar path that they had gone into?
In terms of like that? No, they didn't. They actually didn't, which is something that I really appreciate about them. They never forced me or my sister into a particular direction, whether it's career-wise. Obviously, parents, they probably had their own preconceived perceptions or their own desires. And I think parents typically like to live vicariously through their children. They didn't do that. They may have wanted to, but I'm glad that they had the discipline not to do that. It's not like my father forced me to go into the Air Force and pick a career within the Air Force. They always encouraged us to just live out what we wanted to live out. So I wanted to be a lawyer, for example, right? My sister wanted to be a doctor. My sister's a doctor now. But really pushed her in that direction. They said, this is what you want? Fine, we'll make sure you've got the backing, we'll encourage you, we'll stretch you, we'll challenge you, and we'll make sure that the resources are available for you to live out this dream, right? At great personal cost and sacrifice to them also, you know what I mean? To make sure that their kids live out their dreams. Yeah.
That's incredible. So just the two of you?
Just the two of us. I do have a step brother and a step sister, older
Okay.
Oh, that will have a great relationship. They're based in the UK. We don't see each other as often as we'd like to, but every time that we link up, it's a great time always.
Awesome. So now, of course, you finish your grade 12. How was that conversation? Like the decision to, from there, like the direction you're gonna take.
So yeah, I finished grade 12 in 2008. So you have the gap year. And now it's about figuring out where you want to go to school. CBU was an option. UNZA was an option, of course. And UNAM. So I think I applied to all three. And my dad was very hell-bent on me going to UNZA. Eventually wound up going to UNZA, School of Humanities, with the intention of, I'm going to study law, right? And I'm going to be a lawyer and all that fancy stuff. Got to UNZA. It was fairly easy to make the decision around what I wanted to do, right? Because I already knew from childhood that I'm going to practice law at some point when I'm older. So making the decision to go to UNZA, not really a controversial one for me. I was pretty indifferent. UNZA, CBU. I think CBU didn't have a school of law at the time, so that one was already crossed off. UNAM was not really a thing for me, per se. I was actually quite comfortable.
Is that in Zambia? I think
Which one? UNAM? University of Namibia. No.
Oh, University of Namibia.
Yeah, exactly. So at the time, I think it was one of the more popular ones within Southern Africa. So I wasn't really keen on leaving the country anyway. So I was pretty happy with going to UNZA.
Okay. And that was it. How was the experience there?
UNZA. UNZA is UNZA. It was a really good experience, actually. I think the autonomy, first of all, because it's the first time that you're really like outside of the nests, outside of
for you.
For me at least.
You never went to boarding school?
I did go to boarding school, just but it didn't count for me necessarily as full autonomy. University life is completely different from boarding life. So that autonomy was nice. Meeting different people from different backgrounds was also an interesting experience. The riots were unique to me, but I never participated. Every time I heard there's a riot about it, because you hear about it before it actually happens.
Exactly.
I'll be like, this is my cue to now leave this exactly. I'll be back when you guys are done, because I'm not getting that tear gas or any of that stuff. But no, UNZA was a great experience. The autonomy, the ability to think for yourself, to make your own decisions, even if they are bad decisions, right? You get to live with the consequences yourself.
Of course.
At least you learn something from it. And I think it was a really good experience for me.
So now, what was that point now? You finish uni, and how did you find yourself in marketing? Yeah,
good question. So remember I said I set out to pursue a career in law, so a law qualification, right? So I did my humanities and super competitive intake. I don't know why the intake was that competitive at the time. I should have gone maybe a year earlier or a year after. It was so competitive, but I didn't make the cut for law school, right? There was a general average number of points that you needed, like based on prior years. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm pretty sure I can make this. And I made that general average. But because of how competitive it was, right? So it was leveled up in terms of the number of points you needed to get into law school. So that didn't happen. So I did politics and public administration. When it happened, actually, my mom and my dad were like, can we withdraw you? Do you want to go to like Unilas or something else?
Try it again.
Yeah, and just like go straight into law school. Going back to my point around, they really wanted to make sure that we were able to live out what our aspirations and our ambitions were as children. At the time I said, no, it's fine. It's all good, right? There's no need for us to start spending money, which was actually, in retrospect, a pretty mature decision because I was already on a government bursary. So I didn't want the thought of them having to start pulling funds from all over the place just to pay for tuition fees for me. I said, fine, I'll carry on with this degree. I'll finish it. If I still want to do this law thing, I'll just fund it by myself, right? So I graduated 2014, 4 years after UNZA, which I got in at 2010. So I got my Bachelor of Arts, and then I think I spent about 8-9 months looking for work. At this point, I really didn't know what I was going to do, right? I was just like,
what are you going to study with?
Yeah, exactly. Let's see where I land. If anything, I was thinking I would find myself in like foreign affairs. I would do like some diplomacy stuff, stuff that would still be of interest to me. Right, because it still had to do with dealing with people. it still had to do with some public facing or consumer facing engagement.
Yeah.
That didn't pan out as planned, right? Despite all the engagements, the networking, the dropping of envelopes and CVs and qualifications, etc. That didn't work out as planned. And at the time, I think even now, jobs are still pretty hard to come by. So the first thing that comes your way, you obviously take it.
You take it.
Because it's a foot in the door with the hope that, well, I now have a foundation or a springboard upon which to enter different industries. So I found myself in a PR and communication.
Quick reminder, if this conversation is helping you, press that subscribe button. It's free for you, but it helps us share these stories with so many people.
Firm called Langmead and Baker Communications. It's actually one of the biggest firms in the country right now, right? As an account executive. So agency life, but on the comm side of things. So working in stakeholder management, stakeholder mapping, drafting press releases for a broad range of clients that were under my portfolio at the time. I had no idea what the job was about. I had no idea what it was going to entail, but it was a paycheck.
As long as you get the money.
Paycheck, I'll be able to pay for my own little things here and there, and over time I would build that out further. But I got in, I didn't know what to expect. I thought I was going to be like some spokesperson or something because, when you think of comms or PR, you're thinking of...
PR.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, the guy goes on the radio, says ABCD, or on TV says ABCD about these particular companies. But that wasn't necessarily the case. So the lady that hired me, her name is Gillian Langmead, gave me the full breakdown of what the role entailed and just what a career path within that space looked like. So that was my first forte into not necessarily core marketing, but the sister to marketing, PR and comms. So that's how I started out, basically. It was a pretty enriching experience because I got to engage with NGOs, provide consultancy support for entities like Zambian breweries, and in aviation and many, many other corporate entities.
You've also studied strategy at Harvard and have had different experiences across different industries. What have you learned about businesses and marketing?
Great question. Before I even get to that, so let me give you the bridge between the PR side and getting into core marketing. So I spent about 2 years at this PR firm. Then at the time, I think Vodafone had just launched in the market, right? Big bang launch. It was grand, amazing, beautiful stuff. A great campaign. And they were looking for a marketing and comms specialist at the time. Right? In my head, I thought, well, comms, I can do that. I don't know much about the marketing side, but let me try my luck, right? Applied for it, got the opportunity to interview for it, got the job, thrown into the deep end. No idea what to do, where to start, how to go about it. But it was still a great experience because I was surrounded by people who, one, knew what to do and who were gracious enough to extend their hands and provide guidance, especially my line manager at the time, right? That for me was my first taste of what core marketing was, right? From the product side, understanding what pricing was, how offers are developed and built, how brand positioning works, how marketing communication works, the full 360. That exposure for me was life-changing, to be honest, right? It just whet my appetite a lot more and really built up the curiosity around what more can I be within this space. So yeah, I developed myself further in there from Vodafone, moved to Barclays, which then became ABSA, then FNB, and now Mouthchoice. All of these were just marketing specific roles. Different scopes, different levels of responsibility, different levels or layers of accountability as well. So very, very enriching. But going to now the question around the Harvard and how that's just shaped how I view businesses. The Harvard trainings and the certifications that I've gotten within the business strategy and disruptive strategy have been really instrumental for me in just how I think around systems and how I think around scale from a business point of view. It gave me the opportunity to just zoom out because one of the traps, right, when you are middle management or even in senior management is that you get too caught up in the day-to-day. And when you're too caught up in the day-to-day, you kind of lose sight of the big picture. Right? So these programs basically gave me the tools I needed to occasionally take a step back, zoom out, see the big picture, see how, in this context, marketing isn't just another department within the organization, but is an actual growth engine, right? That plays a critical role in driving commercial value for the enterprise, driving P&L of the business. I think the ability to do that, learning systems that were easily applicable in my day-to-day at work was truly valuable.
Yeah.
So yeah, that the strategy courses were truly instrumental.
Yeah. So now, of course, you're in those positions now. How did you know that I need to take these courses or extra certifications in order for me to fill in this gap? Like how, when does that come in? Or
I think I don't think it's a blanket rule. For me, it was just a matter of desire. So one thing that I've always had is ambition and the desire to always be better, the desire to always differentiate myself also in the marketplace, right? If I'm a marketer, there are many other people who practice marketing, right? But then how do I stand out? How do I make sure I differentiate myself? How do I become a marketer of note? One that's desirable to as many entities or businesses as possible out there. If you want a marketing leader, it means my name needs to pop up, right?
Yeah.
If you have a list of 10, a short list of 10, a short list of 5, at least my name needs to be there because I've differentiated myself enough to know that execution or practice in marketing extends beyond core marketing, right? So I choose to view myself, or I wanted to view myself as a business leader, one, who looks after the marketing function. What that means is basically having a full understanding of how finance works, how businesses make money, how HR works, how organization design works, risk management, and all these different facets of the business, right? So I think having that understanding and the role that marketing plays across each of them to create value holistically is a value add. And I thought, well, what sort of courses, what sort of trainings do I need to help me bridge the gap between where I'm at currently as a specialist and marketing specialist? I know how media works. I know how to do agency relations. I know social, digital, yada, 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 yada. But how do I get to a place where I can bridge the gap between where I am and a place where I am a holistic, well-rounded leader who just looks after the marketing function? And the strategy courses were instrumental in my own assessment for that, right? I think there are many more others out there, but the ones that I chose to engage in were helpful in me bridging that gap.
so it's more like you also saw the need, and because you also didn't study like marketing and all that, so
exactly.
I think maybe I don't know, maybe you felt the need that you
Definitely,
I needed to grow, even if you're in this, right? I need to grow.
100%. I always think you need to be. I think you should be credentialed at the end of the day. I think it's good if, and I'm a strong proponent of, learn from anywhere you can. YouTube, Coursera, Udemy, whatever it may be. But as and when resources allow it, just get credentialed also from like a reputable, credible organization or institution that you can put on your CV or your portfolio or whatever it may be.
What's your advice to people that have studied something but they keep finding themselves in roles that that do not match? Like, I mean, you've studied something else and then a job is there's a job that's being offered and it's not in your field of what you've studied.
I mean, if first of all, do they want to do that job, or is it something that's a long-term view for them, right? Or is it just a stop?
So mostly it's out of need. It's like there's just this job, I need to take it.
Yeah. No, and I understand that, right? It's it depends. It's a twofold answer. I know of a lady that studied finance, proper finance. She's an accountant, and she just never practiced accounts. She works in marketing, right? And that's because that's just her passion. It's her desire. It's where she wants to build out her career. If you find yourself in a space that's different from what you studied academically, different from what your undergrad may be, I think you have to answer the question, is this just a stopgap measure for me just because I want to earn an income and then I'm going to ultimately pivot to what is aligned to my qualifications? If that's the case, then so be it, right? However, if the intention is to grow within that new space that you found yourself in, I think ultimately you should get yourself credentialed within that space. So if you're in finance, you're now suddenly in the marketing space, ultimately you need to get some sort of qualification that speaks to your new career aspirations and your new career ambitions. If you're a typical marketing person and you want to wind up into the finance space, you obviously need to get credentialed also. Right? Yeah. So that would be my advice, just because it gives you credibility. I think in the short term, if you start out in that role, that job, whatever it may be, if you're not credentialed yet, that's fine, because you're learning, you're networking, you're engaging. But the long-term view, if you want to build out yourself within that space, is to definitely pursue some form of training, formal training.
Did you have DSTV on growing up?
Yeah. I don't remember when. I think there was cassette before. I think it was
before
DSTV. Yeah, at least in our house. I don't know if DSTV was there at the time, but
cassette.
Yeah, it was. It was like an antenna though, but it was antenna based. It was digital, it was terrestrial, not even digital. But we did have DSTV growing up. So the old school, the TV guides.
Yeah, the TV guides. Those are my favorite.
Same. Yeah. Very nostalgic. So,
very much.
And I remember what favorite channels. Obviously, it was the cartoon channels. There was. I don't remember there was KTV, that's for sure. I don't know if you remember KTV.
KTV,
yeah,
DSTV.
Old stuff. There was shows like Hey Arnold and stuff. Before it was Nickelodeon, it was KTV. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey Arnold, I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and I had that growing up.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I love that too. I remember every month I would really be excited. My father would bring the DSTV guide.
Yeah.
And I would go straight to the cartoons section, kids section, and I would draw out the characters
Or you would draw them out.
Yeah, I used to draw a lot. So each of those characters, I would draw them out and then stick them to the wall. I know I talk about this all the time on the podcast whenever I guest come. Yeah.
Nice. Those nostalgic moments. I used to draw a lot as well, actually. So I don't even know why I stopped drawing. going back to the point I said earlier on, the parents just pushing us in all these extracurriculars. So I used to draw a lot. I used to do the same, drawing the characters, but Dragon Ball Z characters especially.
Yeah. Cool stuff. Did you ever think you would work for More Choice?
No, I never thought I would, actually. So it came as a surprise, which eventually became a pleasant surprise. It was never, had thought about it once, just in passing. I think there was one time I was just reflecting generally around, all right, what would be the next move from here? You look at the landscape of businesses in the country, it's like, okay, there's this place. And More Choice was one of those in my consideration set. But I dismissed it pretty quickly. I thought, right? It wasn't necessarily something that was of interest per se to me at the time. I think I've said to people before that for me, every day is different. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say every day is different. It's different because, you've got More Choice as a brand, master brand, right? Then within More Choice now you have the consumer-facing brands. You've got DSTV, right? You've got GoTV, you've got Showmax, you've got DSTV Stream, GoTV Stream. Within the consumer-facing brands now you've got Zambezi Magic, 1Z, Super Sport, which is a strong brand in and of itself. So the brand architecture and just navigating that, very complex.
That's a lot.
Right? Very complex. So I think number one for me has always been about starting with clarity, because it's easy to get consumed in all this complexity, right? Because all these brands are serving different purposes. They're serving different segments. They have different appeals, different look, different feel, different tone, overall different. Yeah, serving one common goal at the end of it all, right, which is drive some commercial value for the business. But in terms of how they're executed on a day-by-day, completely different. So starting with clarity is number one, critical for me, right? Because you need to define what it is that we want to solve for. First of all, so what's the business problem? we have to define what the business problem is before we get into tactics, so to speak. And I think one of the biggest challenges, and this is just my own assessment that I see, is that there's a rush from people who are within the marketing space or just a generic commercial customer-facing space to run to tactics. I think of it as the tactification of marketing. Right? Oh, sales are low. Okay, let's do a social media post. Whoa, let's take a step back. Let's figure out why sales are low first. Right? Let's define the problem. Right? You diagnose it. Are sales low because the product is bad? Are sales low because we have a pricing issue that we need to fix? Are sales low because it's an awareness issue? Are sales low because we're just not properly distributed and penetrated into the market enough, right? So once you answer those core questions, they then feed into the next steps you need to take. So starting with clarity is number one for me. Diagnosing the problem is number two for me. After you diagnose your problem, I think setting the ambition becomes the next step, right? Okay, we know that this is the problem. We know the root cause of the problem is this particular reason. Now, what do we want to achieve, right? This is where you set your ambition. Is it, from my perspective, from a Martrace point of view, is it subscriber related? Do we want to grow the subscriber base? Do we want to improve our average revenue per user? In which case, we're talking about how do we get customers to go from this package to this package, because we know that we get a little more revenue on this package, right? Is that the problem? Do we want more retention, less customers falling off the books? So defining that picture of success, having it as clear as possible, like black and white. It shouldn't be gray, it shouldn't be blurry, because that then feeds into the last step, which is designing for execution. Right now, that's where you get into fine. We need a social media campaign, we need a radio activation, we need an on-the-ground activation at these particular malls, etc., etc., etc. So it's really a four-step rhythm for me. Right? Just start with clarity, diagnose the problem, set your ambition, or design and design for execution. I think if you get the first three wrong, it doesn't matter how great your execution is. Right? If you don't start with clarity, if you have defined your problem incorrectly, especially the problem definition part, if you get that wrong, then everything else that follows is wrong. It doesn't matter if you execute world-class execution. You won't get the result that you're looking to get. I think you're better off getting an excellent problem definition and have your execution even 50%. At least you will still see some result. But if you get the top part wrong, then everything else just falls flat. So that's why I also just typically, and I tell my teams this also, rather spend a lot more time on the beginning. Like, let's start with clarity. Let's define our problem. Let's make sure that we have a very clear understanding of what we're trying to solve for and why that problem even exists. I think there's that, I don't know if you've heard that quote. I don't know if it's Thomas Edison or one of these former American presidents talking about I sharpen an axe before I spend more time sharpening the axe before I chop the tree down. It's the same thing. Yeah.
So a lot of preparation, research, understanding.
Yeah, a lot of preparation, research, market data, whatever market data that you can collect, internal data, customer sentiment, social data, whatever it is that you can pull together, aggregate, amalgamate to paint a very clear picture for you for what the market landscape is. Do that. Then you can move into chopping down the tree.
You know, of course, we're not talking about mod choice, but of course you've had, there's load shedding also kind of like affected you, and also the coming on of online cable and whatnot. People, there's Netflix now, there's Amazon Prime and all those. How did you navigate that? It's okay if you don't want to talk about it.
No, it's fine. It's fine, right? I think there's enough public data around this. We have our leaders speak to this at a group level, regional level, local level. We're an ambitious business, right? First of all, we're the biggest business in Africa within the entertainment space, biggest by far. We also cognizant. Let me start by load shedding. So load shedding is not new. Let me start by saying that load shedding has been in Zambia for years and years. So Martrace in Zambia is 30 years old. There was load shedding 30 years ago. The scale, the intensity of load shedding has fluctuated year by year. I think last year was the most intense. Last year? Yeah, was the most intense probably. But that doesn't change the fact that the playbook on how we navigate load shedding is still in place. Because we know the environment in which we operate. We operate in Africa. Africa is nothing like Europe. It's nothing like the Western world. There's a reason why some streaming businesses, and no names mentioned, are pulling out of Africa now, or they're scaling back their operations because it's hard to operate in Africa where there's load shedding, where there's currency volatility, where a political leader will just rise up and make some weird decision that you didn't know was going to affect you, where the taxation just changes overnight, right? But as a business, this is a space that we understand. And load shedding is a similar challenge, right? We created solutions, obviously, that would help us address load shedding because it becomes a customer pain point, not because the customer doesn't want the product anymore, right? It's not necessarily a customer demand problem. The demand exists. We've created it. Yeah, I want DSTV because I want to watch whatever, football, Bali, cartoons, or whatever movie or series or cooking channel or crime and investigation for women. For women. They want to know how to bury and stuff. Yeah. So the demand for that exists. Now the platform to get it gets disrupted because of the power situation. So DSTV Stream, which is one of our solutions, has been a way to fix that, as well as GoTV Stream for customers who are on the GoTV side of our business. And typically, whenever we see load shedding happen, we always see just organically see a spike in the numbers on our streaming platforms. So that is a solution in and of itself, a structural solution to a structural problem. Right. Outside of those two, we also recently, give or take, recently relaunched Showmax. Showmax is slightly different from DSTV Stream and GoTV Stream because it's a video on demand service, right? So it's a typical one, similar to those two that you had mentioned earlier, right? For those that may not necessarily prefer DSTV or GoTV, but then the library is bigger, but it still meets the same needs. The customer wants the video entertainment. Here's the platform through which you can consume it if you're experiencing power challenges. I think it's worked out pretty well for us. That's just one of the levers that we've pulled over the last 18 to 20 months of the intense load shedding we've experienced. So not to say it's been easy also, right? Because navigating challenges like this, it's not easy. Sometimes you try something, it doesn't work. You iterate, you try and optimize, you go back to market, it still doesn't work. So, you just have to figure out what that sweet spot is.
So I'm sure there's a lot of you have to also be able to be adaptable as a leader or as an entire business. You have to be adaptable to what's going on and what the people are crying for.
No, definitely, right? The agility is, you can't operate without being agile anymore as a business. Because consumers are now, especially Zambian consumers, right? We've gotten a lot more sophisticated, a lot more tech and data savvy. We know what we want as customers, right? I'm always number one I'm always the first person to put my hand up to say, there are times where businesses, and ours in particular, we may not always get it right. We can hear the cry, we can hear the demand, and maybe we don't execute as fast as they would like us to execute because, again, remember, it's a really complex business, large business. Sometimes certain decisions that are made in one country will affect another country. Right?
Oh, yes, you have to be...
Exactly. So it's a balancing act. I mean, GoTV Stream, for example, is an outcome of a customer cry. We did the research, we did the customer surveys, and they told us very clearly, well, we want to be able to watch GoTV on our phones. And we gave them the solution. It took a while, but we eventually introduced it to the market. And that's where the numbers shot up real quick in that product. So agility, adaptability, as a business, necessary from a leadership standpoint. Look, there are times where my team has told me, last week we were chasing this week we're chasing something else. And I say, it's going to happen sometimes. It's not ideal, but sometimes it will happen. And when that happens, you need to pivot quickly. Yes, the target has changed. Pivot quickly. Yes, the business decision has changed. The business ambition has changed. Pivot quickly, move forward. There's no point in looking back anymore. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, speaking of your team, how do you keep them motivated and innovative under pressure?
Interestingly, moving into a leadership role was exciting, first of all, right? Because it was checking the boxes of all the parameters, the growth parameters I set for myself.
Yeah.
The hardest part about occupying a leadership role is always people, right? It's not your technical competencies. It's not, can this person do the job? First of all, if you're hired for a leadership role, is not because you are great at, you may be great at marketing, finance, whatever it may be. That's a given. The fact that you're being considered for that role automatically means you have the technical competence and technical capability to operate within that department or that functional area, right? The people side is where the real work happens. One of the things I joke about is I haven't done a brief in years. Because a marketer, the brief is your bread and butter. I haven't done a brief in so long, right? Because it's not my job to do the brief anymore.
Yeah.
Right? It's my job to make sure that the people that do the briefs, my teams, are motivated enough to put together briefs that are clear, that are rational, that are sound. So the people side of things is the most critical part, but it's also the most difficult part because people are different, right? Some people that you praise in public may not necessarily want to be praised in public, right? For me, if you're going to give me some accolades or a shout out, I like it if it's in front of other people. An introvert won't like that, right? Yeah. Exactly. They just text me, say, well done, I'm happy with that. Okay. So how I deal with person A is not how you deal with person B, and learning those subtle nuances, learning characters and personalities, it takes a while, right? You may operate with one person in one way in week 1. In week 2, you operate the same way and they respond differently, right? But in terms of just keeping them motivated, because one of the things I'm passionate about is building a high-performing team, a team that's able to take ownership and run with a particular project, a particular strategy, end to end, all the way through to execution. I think involving them early is one way to keep them motivated, because then they understand the why. It's not just about, I want you to execute the what. Yeah. I want to bring you in early enough so you know the why. Why are we doing this? Why are we looking to execute this particular initiative? Or because these KPIs are down, therefore we need to do A, B, C, D. I think if people understand the why, running with the what becomes a lot easier, because now you've taken ownership, you've taken accountability. If I take a top-down approach and just say, do A, B, C, D, and you don't know why I'm asking you to do A, B, C, D, you do it reluctantly. You're just like, okay, fine, whatever. We do it without passion, you do it without purpose. But if you understand why you are doing something, I think there's a certain impetus that you have a sense of urgency, you have a sense of excitement also, right? So bringing them in early, allowing them to do what they need to do. Because these are professionals, right? They're not, they are in their roles because they know what they're supposed to do. It's their job to tell me what needs to be done, not me to tell them what has to be done in terms of execution, right? There will be times when I say, I think it should be this way. And the great thing is my team will push back, because I've tried to create an environment where they can say, I don't think that should be the way to do this, right? I think we should go in this direction instead. I think we should choose this particular platform, this particular approach, as opposed to what you're proposing. I think giving that amount of room also creates a sense of freedom, autonomy, and ownership and accountability.
Exactly.
Right?
I think I've seen some leaders where like the team can't talk anymore or can't say anything anymore. They're just like, okay, whatever you say, we're gonna do it.
Exactly.
So you don't want a team to reach at that point, because it's gonna be bad.
No, you don't.
So whatever you say, they're just gonna be, whether it's gonna work or not, it's just gonna be
just
like
checking a box. That's it.
And at the end of the day, I get paid.
Exactly.
So I think that's a good approach.
You never want the team to check out mentally. Right? You never want your team to check out mentally, because they will burn out. They'll be looking for jobs every single day using the internet. You've given them a laptop, you've given them the internet. They'll be on Go Zambia. They'll be talking to recruiters every day. You never want your team to be there. You want them to stay as motivated as possible. There's only so much that I can do to keep them motivated. You also need to be a self-starter yourself as an individual, right? Do you have enough ambition? Do you want to grow? Do you want to stretch yourself, challenge yourself? And that's also something that I like to do. I like to throw challenges to the team, right? If it's outside of your scope of work, I'm going to give you something to do, right? Because it's going to stretch you. It's going to make you a better person. Sometimes they may not understand, oh, why are you giving me this job?
Yeah.
Why are you giving me this task, this project, this initiative? Because I believe it's going to stretch you. You're going to learn some new skills, which will be beneficial at some point in your career, right? So, yeah.
Awesome. No, that's. I think that's a very good approach as a leader, and I think that's what most leaders should learn from.
Yeah.
Like, one thing you never want is, I've said this enough, but is for the people to reach that point where
you never
they
want
can't
that.
do anything, they can't be innovative, they can't explore anything because they've just checked out and they don't want to do. They don't want that friction of going back and forth with you because they know they're going to be rejected.
Exactly. Even something as simple as okay, agency pitch. As much as possible, I try not to be the first person to speak, right? Because if I speak first, then I bias the room automatically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, right? Everyone will be like, okay, he said he likes this, so I'm not going to go against that.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd rather everyone speaks first.
Quick reminder, if this conversation is helping you, press that subscribe button. It's free for you, but it helps us share these stories with so many people.
So I can hear what they have to say. I'm like, oh, that's a good position. That's a good opinion. That's nice. Then I'll speak at the end.
Yeah.
Right. If what my thought is contrary to everyone else, but they've got consensus, then we'll go with what they want. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's something about the Zambian market that most marketers underestimate?
I think I mentioned earlier, Zambian consumers are a lot more sophisticated than we like to believe because they're a lot more exposed than the consumer of old, right? They're exposed to different brands, exposed to the way consumers outside of Zambia are serviced, taken care of. So the Zambian consumer is holding businesses to very high standards, very high expectations, right? And we have to meet those. I feel like we really do. And even there are times where I underestimate the extent to which people expect excellent service, right? Because they've been exposed to it. Especially if you provide a service that speaks to a middle to premium segment, right? Especially those because they've got some disposable income. So they've experienced your service or your competitor service, right? Either in Zambia or abroad or something. So they know what they need to get. So they're a lot more sophisticated, a lot more exposed, a lot more demanding. I think we really do underestimate that aspect. And I think the quicker we can get to a place where we benchmark ourselves at a global level, I think the better it's going to be, even in how we service customers. Right? I try not to think of, from a marketing side, just individual marketing. And I tell the team as well, look, you don't just benchmark yourself against another marketer within Zambia. Think about whoever the whatever European marketer of the year is. Think of that person, put that as your benchmark, right? That's your competition. That's who you need to match up. That's the gap that you need to bridge.
Having a successful campaign is also important, sales and numbers. How do you define success beyond that, beyond the campaigns and campaign numbers and the sales?
Yeah. Good one, because I think we still have, as an industry, as a community, we still struggle with, I don't know if it's a knowledge thing, but just we still struggle with understanding that marketing as a function isn't just about making sure the poster or the social media is up. It's not just about the brand guidelines or we adhere to. There has to be an outcome that speaks to P&L or whatever the objective of the business is. There has to be some return on objective, right? I think every marketing initiative or action, be it strategic, be it tactical, needs to ladder up to either some revenue, needs to ladder up to a change in consumer behavior. It has to ladder up to even a change in perception of the brand, maybe, right? And that's why I go back to you need a very clear definition of what you want to accomplish before you jump into tactics or before you jump into what it is that you want to execute, right? So the linkage between marketing and business results, it is there, but we have to be deliberate enough to, one, understand it, and two, communicate it. Because you can find yourself in situations where you've actually delivered upon something, but because you're not communicating it, the attribution goes to somebody else or some other function, right? I also think, and I think this is just a really important one. I remember I was at a Zim function not too long ago, and the Zim president talked about commercial fluency. Just we need marketers, regardless of what level they're at, entry level, middle management, senior management, executive, especially executive. You need to have commercial fluency, right? Don't just talk in terms of impressions and reach and all of these KPIs that we like to use, because those are operational KPIs. They are for the department. Do you understand the P&L of the business? Do you understand how your business makes money? Do you understand the role that taxation plays on your business and the impact it has? Do you understand the macroeconomic environment enough to know that high inflation is going to mean reduced disposable income for your customers? Therefore, you can't run certain campaigns, right? I think having that level of commercial influence, macroeconomic understanding, will have a major role in how you operate as a marketer and how you tie your activities to business results. Yeah.
I think what I'm getting from you is also that if you are a marketer, it's not just about you understanding the marketing department and just that part of the business, but you need to understand what's holistically happening around the entire business and what departments, how this affects that. If you do this, what impact will this have on that other thing?
Yeah, I think if you really want to stand out, and that's just my advice, if you want to stand out, then that's the approach you take. Because you can be a specialist, and there's nothing wrong with being a specialist, right? Like, this is my niche. I'm a digital marketer. This is me. There's nothing wrong with that. I think if you want to, especially if you aspire for like leadership roles, you aspire to sit on an executive committee, you want to be part of the management of an organization, then you do need that 360. Because like I said, at that point, you are not a marketing leader per se. You're a business leader who looks after the marketing function, right? And as a business leader, it means you know what finance does, you know what HR does, operations, IT, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah,
exactly. But you look after the marketing function. Yeah.
Wow, I like that. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, Mukuka. So this is called Duwit. Here we don't just talk.
We do it.
We do it.
Yeah. As it should be. As it should be.
Yeah. So on this segment of the project breakdown, we're gonna look at the business of marketing leadership.
Yeah.
Are you ready for that? So I'm gonna ask you a number of questions, and you're going to walk us through practically.
Cool.
Of course.
Cool.
Yeah. Are you ready?
Yeah. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. Okay, so thank you for joining me on this segment. So on what we're going to focus on now is how strategic marketing actually drives business growth.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give you some guiding questions and you're going to walk us through that.
Cool.
Yeah. So what does it really take to link marketing ideas to business outcomes?
Two very simple things. One, clarity. Like I said earlier, what is the business problem? Because if you just start to act without understanding what the business problem is, that's where you find yourself in a space where you have executed, but there's no linkage to the business problem or any business outcome. Is the business problem sales? Is it subscriber growth? Is it retention? Is it churn? Once that's clear, then it's easy to put in place interventions that you can directly attribute to any business outcome. So that clarity, that problem definition, that design of the tactical execution, imperative, critical.
I think I keep giving back to this point that you keep mentioning, like you need to understand the entire business, how each department functions and how it affects the other.
Correct. And there's nothing wrong with asking as well. Because I talked about commercial fluency earlier. If you don't understand how finance works, just go and sit down with the finance guy and say, explain to me how this business makes money. Okay, we sell, we cost cut here, we pay these particular taxes, etc., etc., etc. In this quarter, we need to achieve this particular number. When you have that clarity, it becomes a lot easier on the execution side.
Second question, how do you make sure creative teams think like business partners, not just content makers?
That's a really, really good one. I have seen, though, I'll say this, I've seen some improvement in content partners, agency partners, just around deliberately trying to understand the business. Before it was just, all right, we're excited, we want to win an award. And I'm big on awards also, right? But for me, solving the business need is much more important than winning an award at Zim or
Yeah.
Hopefully one day some Zambian businesses will participate in the lorries or the FEs or whatever. Awards are great, but I don't think that's what agencies should focus on. I think that should be secondary. Primary is we need to help the client meet whatever business objective. So how do I do it? I emphasize strongly that every brief should have some commercial context to it. Going back to my point on the strategic clarity. Are you starting the brief? You need to answer the why. So the agency knows, why are we doing this? Are we doing this because we want to improve brand perception? If it's brand perception, it's going to guide the agency in how they come up with their big idea. If it's a sales problem, it will guide the agency. If it's a retention problem, and on and on and on, I think every brief needs to have that commercial context. That why should always be there. It should be in the brief. Sit the agency down, the content partners down, and let them know what it is that we're trying to achieve.
Thanks for that. The third question, when resources are tight or challenges hit, for example, like load shedding or budget cuts, how do you adapt strategy effectively?
Tight budgets is a thing, right? I think over the years, budgets have been shrinking, just generally, right? Just you're expected to do more with less. And that's also a principle that we have. How can we do more with less? How can we extract as much value from the budget that we do have and still drive the same results we drove last year, or we drive even bigger results than we drove last year? And that's where thinking outside the box comes in. Experimentation comes in. I think my team are allowed to experiment, right? Try something, it doesn't work. It shouldn't be a fate of failure, obviously, right? But some amount of failure is allowed, right? Then you build on it. It's all about the incrementality. So I'll give you an example, right? We have gradually and deliberately been reducing or not reducing, but optimizing our marketing budgets, right? We were spending less, for example, on ATL or media. We're skewing towards digital, right? But even then on the digital side, not even paid digital, just organic digital, because it's free, right? I'm not necessarily giving Meta my money, but I'm still getting the amount of exposure and reach that I need, as well as consumer action. So organic social is a big thing for us as a department, first of all, and then also as a business, right? Because it helps us optimize our costs, but it still drives the results that we want to drive. Right? So if you see, whether it's our socials, our DSTV, GoTV page, the reach is pretty high, significant, as high as though you're doing paid. And that's because of some pretty deliberate interventions we've put on the back end, which I won't speak to because there are hours and hours alone, that have helped us bridge the gap between an optimized budget and still driving certain results. So it's about thinking outside the box, exploring ways in which you can just do more with less.
The fourth and last question, what are the key traits that turn a good marketer into a trusted business leader?
Yeah, and I think we've touched on this already, right? Just some commercial understanding.
Yeah.
If it means, like I said, if it means go sit down with one of the finance managers and so they can explain to you, if it means you go to Zika student or something, do, because I know they do like short courses like finance for non-finance professionals, things like that. I highly recommend. I highly recommend, because that's how you become a trusted business leader, whether it's to your managing director, to your CEO. I think being accountable enough to go back and say, we tried this and it resulted in this, or we tried this and it didn't work.
Yeah.
If you have that level of accountability, that level of discipline, because it is an accountability, it's a discipline, because you're spending money that could have been deployed in a different way within the business. If you have that, again, you're viewed as someone that has discipline. I think we need to get the CFO or finance mindset of operational rigor and discipline and apply it to the marketing side of things. I think that's how we'll build credibility. That's how we'll build respect, for lack of a better phrase, within the boardroom.
What I'm also getting is be curious enough to learn what other people are doing. Don't just stick to what you know. I'm just marketing, so I'll just stick to this, and I don't care about what other departments are doing.
Exactly.
So be curious and also be willing to learn.
Be willing to spread your wings.
Yeah. That was practical, and I think I've gotten a lot of points, especially when it comes to understanding the business and being agile and also being curious to learn what other people are doing, other departments, and just looking at how things are going, like the markets, how things are changing around. So you need to adapt to that as well. So thank you so much for the project breakdown. That was short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet. Yeah. All right. So just to wrap it up, we'll go back to our conversation.
Cool.
All right. Thanks. Okay, so it's now time for the rapid fire questions. So short answers only. No long answers or paragraphs.
No long-winded explanations.
Yeah. Are you ready?
Yeah. Let's go.
All right. Let's do this. A brand that always inspires you.
Apple.
Your go-to way to unwind after a long work day.
FIFA.
Coffee, tea, or something stronger.
Coffee.
How do you like it?
It depends. It depends. Sometimes black, no sugar, which is terrible, but it's got an effect. But generally, I like a flat white.
What's one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
I should have been an F1 driver in another life.
Yeah. A song or playlist that gets you in the zone.
Right now, it's Now or Never. I forget the name of the artist, but some UK rapper.
A place you would love to travel to next.
Italy.
If you could give your 25-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Just that it works out in the end. You don't panic. It all works out in the end.
All right, Mukuka, those are the rapid fire questions. Yeah,
awesome.
You made it.
I made it to the end.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming through. This was really insightful. I think I've learned a lot. I mean, speaking as a creative who also wants to get more into the business aspect of this, because it's now like we are realizing, I think you also touched on it to say creatives are now realizing that it's also like important to understand business and it works and everything. It's not just about creating a cool poster and getting it out there or a cool
great
video.
TVC,
So this has really been insightful, and I've been inspired by your work. I've been seeing it online. I'm just like, I need to talk to this guy.
Cool stuff, man. I also appreciate you for reaching out. I think the questions were really insightful, very well thought out, and I think what you're doing here is great. We definitely need more of this. It's a very, very unique niche that you've created for yourself. I watched a number of the previous episodes just to understand what it's about, and I think you're doing some great stuff.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that coming from you.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Oh, is this? We have to do a... Okay. Nice.
All right, cool.
Nice.